Hello everyone, welcome back to the Future X USA channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and like my videos because today we are diving into a story that is shaking the heart of Eastern Europe and catching Moscow completely off guard. Belarus, a country often overlooked in global headlines, is suddenly on the brink of chaos. The streets are filling with cars lined up in endless queues, gasoline stations are drying out, and ordinary people are facing an unexpected crisis that could ripple far beyond its borders. This is not just a story about fuel. It's about survival, power, and the fragility of a system that seemed stable only days ago. First, let's summarize the story. Belarus has been hit with a sudden gasoline shortage, and the government was completely unprepared. Citizens are rushing to stations in panic, creating long lines that stretch across neighborhoods. Moscow, usually the lifeline for Belarus in times of trouble, has been caught flat-footed, unable to respond quickly. What started as whispers of supply disruptions has turned into a national crisis. Tempers are flaring, trust in leadership is crumbling, and the entire situation is becoming a test not only for Belarus, but also for Russia's influence in the region. This is the kind of unexpected breakdown that tells us how fragile modern systems are when even a basic necessity like fuel slips out of reach. Let's begin with the exterior picture of this crisis. On the outside, Belarus's cities and towns are beginning to look like something out of a survival movie. Rows of vehicles wait in the cold, engines off, people standing outside their cars with plastic cans, hoping the next delivery of fuel will reach before their patience runs out. Some stations have signs declaring a no fuel available, and in rural areas, the situation is even worse. Farmers cannot get enough fuel to keep their machinery running. Public buses are cutting schedules. The exterior impression is one of growing frustration, but also of quiet fear. You can see it on the faces of ordinary citizens. This isn't just inconvenience, it's a shock to daily life. Belarus has always presented itself as a country of order, but the visuals now show disorder creeping in from the edges. Moving inside, let's talk about the interior. What is happening at the core of the system? At the interior level, Belarus is struggling with its outdated infrastructure, its reliance on Russian supplies, and its inability to adapt quickly to shortages. The government has tried to reassure people with statements about temporary disruptions, but inside ministries and fuel companies, panic is visible. Workers admit that reserves are not enough, and logistics chains have been disrupted. The short interior view is clear. This crisis was not planned for, and there is no quick fix waiting behind closed doors. Now let's talk about performance, how Belarus is performing under this sudden stress test. Sadly, the performance has been. Instead of quick mobilization of reserves, effective rationing, or a well-organized communication strategy, the authorities have appeared slow and uncertain. Performance on the streets shows confusion. Police are present at stations, but they cannot make gasoline appear. Performance of the government in calming the population is minimal, and the people themselves are improvising, some pooling rides, others switching to bicycles, and still others relying on black market sellers who are already taking advantage of the chaos. In terms of political performance, Moscow has been notably silent. For a country that usually claims to have its allies under control, Russia's lack of immediate response is being seen as a sign of weakness. The safety aspect of this crisis cannot be ignored. When people gather in large queues, tempers flare, fights break out, and the risk of accidents rises. Already reports of small scuffles at stations are spreading, and authorities fear larger riots if the shortages continue. Safety also extends to hospitals and emergency services. Without steady fuel, ambulances and essential services are at risk of delays. This puts lives on the line far beyond the frustration of long queues. Safety in the wider sense is also about political stability. Belarus has already been under pressure with protests in the past, and fuel shortages could reignite public anger. A government can handle many things, but when people cannot fill their tanks to get to work or feed their families, the safety of the state itself is under threat. What are the unique selling points of this crisis? Strange as it sounds, every crisis has unique elements that make it stand out from other situations. Here, the unique point is how quickly Belarus has shifted from calm to chaos, and how completely unprepared Moscow was to respond. Usually, Russia acts as the safety net for Belarus, stepping in with supplies or political backing. But this time Moscow is distracted, stretched thin by its own commitments, and unable to move fast enough. This creates a unique vulnerability not just for Belarus, but for Russia's image as a regional power. Another unique feature is the symbolic weight of fuel. Unlike shortages of luxury goods, fuel is a necessity for everyone: farmers, workers, students, emergency responders. When fuel disappears, the crisis becomes universal, cutting across class, wealth, and politics. What about price? Price is where the pain is sharpest. As gasoline becomes scarce, its price is shooting up both officially and unofficially. Official stations are rationing, but on the black market, prices are already double or triple the normal rate. For ordinary Belarusians, whose incomes are already modest, this is devastating. It means the cost of living spikes overnight. Food deliveries become more expensive, transport costs rise, and inflation begins to spread. People are calculating whether to buy food or fuel, a choice no modern citizen expects to make. The price element also has a geopolitical side. Moscow, if it decides to step in with emergency supplies, will not do it for free. The price Belarus will pay in political loyalty and dependency will grow. In this way, price is not just about money, it's about sovereignty. Now let's move toward the conclusion. What does all of this mean? It means Belarus is standing at a dangerous crossroads. A simple gasoline shortage has revealed deeper weaknesses: dependence on Moscow, lack of reserves, and fragile trust between government and people. It also exposes Moscow's own limit. For years, Russia has projected strength, but being caught unprepared in its own backyard tells a different story. For Belarusian citizens, this is a test of resilience. How they adapt, how they respond, and how long they endure these shortages will shape the country's immediate future. For the government, it is a test of legitimacy. If leaders cannot provide fuel, can they claim to lead? And for Moscow, it is a test of credibility. If Russia cannot rescue its closest ally from gasoline queues, how can it pretend to be a superpower capable of shaping global events? The streets of Minsk and other cities tell us a simple truth: no empire, no government, no power is immune to the basic needs of its people. When fuel runs dry, the promises of leaders lose their weight. Belarus is now a living example of how fragile modern societies can be when a single supply chain breaks. The people waiting in those endless lines are not just waiting for gasoline, they are waiting for answers, for relief, for proof that someone, somewhere, is still in control. Whether those answers come from Minsk or Moscow remains to be seen. So as we close this review of the unfolding Belarus gasoline crisis, remember this is not just a local story. It's a mirror reflecting the instability of systems everywhere. When we depend too heavily on one source, when leaders grow too confident, and when no backup plans exist, chaos can appear overnight. Belarus today could be anywhere tomorrow. Thank you for watching Future X USA. If you found this deep dive useful, please subscribe, like, and share this video. Your support helps us bring more stories that matter, stories that reveal not just the events but the lessons hidden inside them. Stay alert, stay informed, and see you in the next video.